So we got an evolution here, and back in the early 80s we started with essentially a tax credit program. Jimmy Carter was the president of the United States. We went through a huge oil crisis. People were standing in line for gasoline. So one of the things he did was, let's look at renewable energies, and solar, wind, geothermal, hydro. Wind energy, they put $900 million in. $450 million went into a tax program. The other $450 million went into DOE research. And really the only thing that was available are machines that you see down here. And those are old wood blade machines. They were 17 kilowatts. They're not real efficient. You had to climb 120 feet. They were nice farm machines, but they weren't really designed for utility generation wind.
What year were those made?
The first Jacobs actually were made in the 20s, and even before that, Admiral Byrd took one to the pole in 1912, whenever he went to the pole. That was a big exploration. And those machines were on the farm. So if you were on the farm with no electricity, you had an RCA radio with a windmill and some batteries. So the wind turned the machine, you had battery power, and you listened to the shadow on your radio on the farm. And that's kind of how it all, the utility side of it all started. So that's the type of machine we had, which were these very small, very just not really good machines. The Danes came along mid-70s and started really getting involved in wind energy. And they came out and introduced machines like this into California, specifically to sell into the market. This machine goes from 17 kilowatts to 65 kilowatts. They all work the same way. We got a set of blades that act just like an airplane wing, so they create lift. They start turning around and they go into a gearbox. And instead of a gear reducer, we're actually increasing. So we're going from about 30 RPM here to 1200 RPM back in the generator. So that's a gear increaser. The generator is a inductive generator. We have to have power in to get power out. We start turning, the computer looks at everything, we close the switch and start operating. That's as complicated as the technology is. The big thing is, with the new machines, it's just so much more advanced, and you can take advantage of lower winds and higher winds. So this would be a first generation machine. We go into a second generation machine, which the Danes, the Europeans have been dealing with. Then we'd take a big jump and go into third generation machines. What you see around us are 13 400 kilowatt machines. So we've gone from 65 kilowatts to 400 kilowatts. And the big thing that you notice is the length of the blades. So the more blade length you have, the more bite out of the air that you can take. The other thing that's a real big jump up is these blades pitch in and out. If you have a low wind day, they pitch out and they take a really big bite of that air. When the wind isn't blowing as hard or is blowing real hard, they don't have to take that big bite out. The computers on board will protect the machines. So we can have 60 and 70 mile an hour winds through here. It's hard on the equipment, so we just don't want to run in that. So these machines would just feather all the way, lose all the lift, and they just coast. And that's the big advantage of the new modern technology. So we're now in third generation, which is about 1995. Well, we're Americans, let's get bigger. We go into fourth generation, which are machines that are across the freeway and up on Whitewater Hill. And these go from 750 kilowatts up to 1.5 megawatts in Palm Springs. And they now even have bigger machines, 1.8, 3.6, 4 megawatt machines that are designed for offshore use. Big difference between third generation and fourth generation is how much bigger they are. This tower is 120 feet tall, blades are about 80 feet long. The blades on this are close to 100 feet long. So it's a much bigger, much more advanced machine. And instead of having the big difference between this and conventional energy, instead of having one power plant of 600 megawatts, which was how many megawatts we have here, we have 4,800 machines that all operate independently. So if you have one part of a machine go down, you don't ever lose the entire plant.